Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Batting 1,000, where we speak to the heavy hitters in the mortgage industry. And today, I've got the heaviest of heavy hitters, no question about it. What a treat you guys are in store for today. I am so blessed and so honored to have Shant Banosian with us today. If you don't know Shant, you have not been in the mortgage industry. Shant has been the top loan officer in the country for over 5 years. He's been the top loan officer for a rate for over 8 years. He does $1 billion a year in business. He has been a guy who's closed 40,000 units, got 20 plus years experience. He's funded, oh my gosh, $9 billion, almost $10 billion in loans. He's a speaker. He's a leader. He's been on the Mortgage Global 100 list. We've shared that opportunity, but he's been there 3 times, which is amazing. 2020, 2021, and 2022. Shant, it is so great to have you, my friend. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, Dale, thank you. What an introduction. And, I'm hoping you mean heavy hitter by production and influence, not by poundage.
Exactly what I meant by influence and
Yeah, there you go.
charisma and
So, no,
personality
I
and
appreciate it,
finance
man.
and all of it.
I love it. Thank you. It's an honor. Honored to be here. Excited to get rolling here.
Well, good. Well, let's just kick right in, Shant. I mean, I am sure that everybody watching this, the first question they probably have in their mind is, how in the world do you do $1 billion in business in a year? And I know you've done that time after time after time. So just talk to me a little bit about how did you build this dynamic business? What does that look like? And what are the things that matter to you? What are the things that you think are the most important elements to build an incredible business in the mortgage industry?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. So, part of it is longevity, right? Like I've been at this for a very long time now, even though I still feel like a young guy in the business. I've really a retail loan originator in since 2000, early 2008, right? And I've used opportune markets to really be able to grab market share. So, for example, like 2008 was to a lot of people probably seemed like a really really crazy time to start,
Yeah.
a mortgage career, and like really in hindsight, it was like one of the best times to start a career because so many people were leaving the business and so many people were looking for partners that were going to be in the business and could help both consumers and real estate partners. And then we did the same thing in 2022. When the market really changed, we doubled down our efforts and we determined that like, hey, people are going to need us more than ever. Our partners, our clients would need us more than ever. We're going to double down our efforts in terms of marketing, branding, and just staying out in front of people. And it's really paid off. Like, I'm proud to say, here we are in 2024, we're wrapping up the year and we're right on pace to do over $1 billion again, or right at $1 billion, anyways, which is like an incredible number, right? Like it's not something that like I take lightly. And it's something that when I first started out my mortgage business, if I could have said I would have done that over the course of my career. And, we came pretty close in 2019. We did it in 2020, did it again in 2021, pretty close again in 2022. Obviously, last year we were, down a little bit, but, in comparison. But last year, actually, even though our numbers were down, our market share had never been bigger. And this year we're doing the same thing. So, what have we done? Certainly I'm not doing it by myself, right? Like I decided early on to accomplish my goals, both personally and professionally, to do a great job. I wanted to do it with a team, right? So like I decided very early on that like I wanted to build a really great team that would allow me to not only do sales, which I think most people focus on, to do a great job building out an operational fulfillment platform, to be able to brand, to be able to market, to be able to have customer follow up, customer retention, all those things. Because you can't really build a business you're not really a business when you're a one man operation, right?
Right.
Like you're just a salesperson at that point. Which, by the way, is totally okay if like that's what you want to be and that's what you want to
Of
do.
course.
But like I wanted freedom, I wanted leverage to be able to be able to capture more business. It's allowed me to build my business in 2008. Honestly, when I first started, my goals were so small in terms of like I just want to be relevant in like these 3 or 4 communities, like
Yeah.
small suburbs outside of Boston. to here I am in 2024. And for multiple years now, I've been licensed in all 50 states, and I'm doing business all around the country pretty consistently. So, how did I do it? Lots of discipline, lots of commitment, um, you know, and consistency. Like every single year, I go into the year and I look at it as a fresh start, new season, and I look at the opportunities that are in the market and the things that are going to get me excited about doing business in that market, and I create goals for the year. But we're also like, I'm not like looking out, like, even though I have a 3-year plan, 5-year plan, that to me is like visionary stuff in terms of how I'm going to get there. I'm generally doing my business day by day, week by week, quarter by quarter, and I'm holding myself to really high standards in terms of like the metrics that I need to hit on a weekly basis to accomplish my goals. I did it entirely based on partners with realtors and financial planners
Okay.
initially, and that's still the core foundation and focus of my business. However, now that I've got over 120,000 people in my database, my
Wow.
database does a really great job of just allowing me to stay in touch with my clients, and just kind of constantly uh, stay in communication with them as their life is changing, as they're moving up, moving down, entering the market, have family members, all that stuff. So like that's become almost as an important part of my business as my partners at this point.
Awesome. How in the world did you create 120,000 names in your database from 2008?
It's I do a lot of marketing, right? Like and it's not like it's not paid marketing. It's we just do a really good job of capturing people's information every time they engage with us on social media. Every time they're introduced to us, like we treat every single introduction, whether it's like somebody calling me for advice, whether it's somebody that's introduced to me, whether it's somebody inquiring about even a product. Like I just had a client introduced to me today that wanted a land loan. Like I didn't have a product for him, but I've got his email now and I've got his contact information. Next time he wants to buy a house, hopefully he thinks of me because we'll constantly, market to them on social and email and however else we do. So, I've been capturing contact information since the beginning. That was always very, very important to me
Yep.
because now it allows me to stay top of mind and relevant to them. Um, there's many people on every deal. There's a buyer's agent, there's a
Yeah,
seller's agent, there's an attorney, all that kind of stuff. We're constantly mining that information and then remarketing to them.
I love it. So much to unpack on what you said there. Let me ask you this question. You and I got to meet, by the way, for the first time personally
Yeah,
at the IMB Summit. Love sitting down having dinner next to you.
yeah, it was great.
Really, really great to get to know you and learn about your family. Shant is a great family man and just a great guy. One of the
Thank you.
things that you talked about in your speech that I really, really liked that I've not heard many other people say outside of, I know I've said it a million times, and that you talked about how chaotic markets are the most opportunistic ones. And,
Yeah,
and I couldn't agree more. I can't tell you how many times over the last 3 years since 2021 passed and rates started to rise in 2022, everybody looks at a volatile market or a chaotic market and says, oh, that's the bad news. There's a lot of volatility. No, that's the good news. That's when people need us the most. That's when consumers are hurting. That's when they want to get into new homes. That's when our partners need us to show up. Talk a little bit about, if you would, unpack that whole thought process from your perspective, how you also feel the same way that chaotic markets like we've been in and will continue to be in 2025 and part of 2026, how that works to your benefit.
yeah. It's important to have that perspective, in my opinion. Perspective's so important. So I look at chaotic markets as a gift, right? Whereas like a lot of people automatically look at it as like just they get negative, right?
Yep.
Whereas I look at it as a positive opportunity, right? So to me, a chaotic market is great in the sense that I look at it as most of my competition will freeze and do nothing, right?
Yeah.
Most people are going to try to figure out in the future what's going to happen. They try to anticipate. Some people will just wait until the market shifts to, whatever a normal or good market is, which by the way, never comes. And they freeze and do nothing. Whereas like that, 5 or 10% of people that are that type A action takers just run into the fire. Those are the people that the can go out have major influence in a marketplace, both to consumers and partners. So, I've had two really chaotic markets and possibly more, right? But like two that stick out to me, like 2008, and I was very, very young, right?
Yep.
I was, it was really 2007 is when it got really chaotic. But in 2008 is when I started my business. So I'm, this 28-year-old person with not a lot of partners, influence in the market or anything, but like I really showed up big time where like a lot of people are getting out. And a lot of people, when the market gets really hard and chaotic, they focus on what's changed, what they've lost, how hard it is. Whereas like if you just have tunnel vision on and you focus on where the opportunity is, how you can serve your partners and clients, you're just looked at differently. People that don't work with you or gravitate towards you. You start, if you're out there with positive energy and information, and you can figure out where the obstacles and challenges are for
I
your
love
clients and partners and be the solution to that, and just keep it that simple. What are the obstacles and challenges in the market? And be the solution, right? And all of a sudden, next thing you're getting new introductions, new partners, new relationships, new opportunity. And so that's what we did in 2008. I didn't have any influence. I didn't have any money for that matter. I didn't have any partners, but I worked really, really hard. Next thing you know, I was able to make lifelong relationships because I showed up at a time where a lot of people were doing nothing, frozen or getting out of the business. Here we are in 2002. I used all of those lessons that I learned at the time, except now I have years of experience, relationships, a brand, a target market, all that kind of stuff. And I use that to really double down. And so you're 100% right with what you said. Like the most chaotic markets, that's when your information is needed the most. Like whether you're a real estate professional, mortgage, whatever, the harder the market gets, the more the consumer needs us,
That's right.
right? The more they need our advice, the more they need our nurturing, the more they need our guidance. Whereas like, in 2020, I'm sorry, 2020 and 2021, the game was different. Like really, you just had to get really transactional at that point.
That's
You
it.
just had to, if you could take on like, that was challenging too, but it was just different challenge in terms of you had to have the right systems and processes to be able to onboard as many clients as possible and do a good job and get them through the system. But like there wasn't a whole lot like other than like, hey, I can get you 2.75, 3.25. Here's your options, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, get them in and out the door. Whereas now the challenges in the market are, affordability is a challenge, right? Inventory has been a challenge for a long time in terms of, not only are you going to pay a little bit more for home prices, rates are going up, but you got to show clients what they need to do in order to structure a deal to make it a little bit more affordable for them, structure a deal to be more appealing to a seller to compete with all the multiple different offers, all those things. Work with your real estate partners because they're going through a lot, right? They're going through all the different challenges through the NAR settlement.
Yep.
They're going through the challenges of like there's not a lot of houses being sold, so like every single deal is much more important to them. How can we help you increase your conversion, right? So like I'm just trying to identify the obstacles and challenges for my clients and my partners, and then be the solution. Next thing you do that over and over and over again. Now you're attracting new partners, you're attracting new clients, and it works. So like what happened is, like I'm proud to say, like this year, for example, the overall purchase market, I think it's like pretty close to even. You could say it's like down about 7% in terms of like in terms of the amount of real estate transactions have happened in the United States. We're up 44%, right?
Right.
Our purchase volume's up 44%. So we're beating the market by 50 over like just about 50%, right? One of the most proudest accomplishments of my career. And it's not because anything we're doing today, it's what we've done over the course of the last couple of years. And it's like just, multiplying in terms of, the payoff. But it's not like what I did last month or the month before. It's what I did in 2022. It's what I did in 2023. And obviously it's what I did before that as well. But what I know also what I noticed is like it's become easier for me to get meetings. It's become easier for me to add relationships because so many people have still today are just like licking their wounds and doing nothing.
That's
Right?
right.
They're waiting for rates to come down. They're waiting for more inventory to come out. I don't even know what they're waiting for. They're just waiting and trying to analyze what's going to happen. And like I don't do a lot of that stuff. I just go into action.
Yeah, it's good. Unbelievable. That was so many golden nuggets right there. Now, you said something there that I want to key in on for a minute. Okay.
Okay.
And I loved how it just flowed right out of your mouth instantly. You said, in 2008, when I started building lifelong relationships. I do not hear most loan officers use that kind of terminology. They're all about the transaction. Let's get this thing. And it's always interesting to me, when you talked about you're up 44% in purchase, the industry's down 7%. I think a lot of loan officers make the mistake that, or even companies for that matter, well, if the market's down 7% and I'm down 7%, then I'm doing okay because I'm where the market's at. No, you got to get
All
your
right.
own. You got to get your share of that. But talk to me for a minute about the importance and the power of relationship from your perspective, both with your partners and with your customers, your end buyers.
Yeah, it's everything. This is a relationship business, and so many people treat it like a transactional business, right? Like we're dealing with humans every single day, and that can be really
Right.
hard. I would say one of the reasons that I've been able to scale my business and have as much success as we've had is because I truly like work really, really hard for the people that support our business. I'll do anything for them, and they would do the same for us. And I really work with people that I like, trust, and respect, and we really try to make sure they like, trust, and respect us. And you do those things by really differentiating yourself and adding value to their businesses and to their to their financial goals. So with my partners, like truly, like if I think back of like the people that are still supporting my business today, most of those people are the people that like I started working with in 2008, 2009, 2010, and a lot of those people also introduced me into their spheres and into their businesses, right? Like and so like and we try to do the same things today as we're onboarding, new partners and new relationships. And then same with my clients. Like, I have clients that like, when I plug their name in, we've done 5, 10 transactions for them or their family members over the course of that time, right? And like those become your best referral sources because now all of a sudden you don't just have like my team of like, what I have like, 20 some odd people. I've
Yeah.
got a team of a few hundred people out there that are selling my services and my brand, and that are out there like just really kind of raving fans of my business, right? And so, yeah, I truly like, I'm always thinking like whenever I meet somebody, like what the potential of that relationship is, and ultimately, like that's why we try really hard never to screw up a deal because like if you do, you could ruin an entire web of opportunity. So like we really try to impress everybody on every single transaction, and create opportunity from it. And it's really like it's amazing like how far service level communication goes. Like, but if you're the clients that don't lead to it's funny is like 2020 and 2021, even though it was very transactional,
Yeah.
that's like when relationship building like was at its worst, right? Because like
Right.
you were like there was people that came through our system and we did a great job for them, but things were going so fast we barely got to know them, and they barely got to know us,
Yeah.
right? We accomplished what they were looking to accomplish, but it was like moving so fast that it was like impossible to get to know everybody. Whereas like you put me in touch with a like I have a client that calls me from 2012 or 13. I know who they are, where they live, all that kind of stuff. And same
Yeah.
thing like this year, like we've really focused on that as well. So it's everything. It's, my advice, if you're a loan officer listening to this, um, is it all starts there. Like, if as the business changes, right, you're going to hear people talk about, and it is true that technology is coming into our business, but the number one thing that why will never be replaced is if you can be the person that brings in the relationships, if you can be the rainmaker, right? Like you have all these companies out there that spend a gajillion dollars on driving leads and marketing and all that kind of stuff. Um, they're doing it because they don't have the relationship. So that the only way they can go out and foster and get in communication with those clients is because of the money they're spending. Whereas like with us, like we're just in our communities, and figure out ways where you can kind of nurture every single relationship that comes in and communicate with it and stay in communication with it. Which, by the way, you can utilize technology to make that a little bit easier than it used to be, and you can communicate with a much larger audience every single day and make it feel like you're talking to them, whether it's through podcasts, whether it's through social media, whether it's through email or direct message and video. Like it's amazing, like how you can do all these things without having to work 24 hours a day. But you can use the same principles on that to, communicate with your relationships much more efficiently than we used to kind of have to do 20 years ago.
Yeah. So what are the some of the technological things that you are doing that still maintain that relationship but create much better scale when it comes to being able to access and get to more customers and more partners?
Yeah, so I mean, to keep it really, really simple, so two different from a technology standpoint. I mean, look, I would say this: email's not dead, right? Like a lot of people think email's dead. I would say terrible, boring emails that like look like they're on HTML. Those are dead. Like those get deleted or put in like you get unsubscribed to. But like if you write like content that's like there's two ways to do it. You can write interesting content, right? That like people, in my opinion, short like actually looks like you're writing it and sending it out. I think those do well. We do a lot of video emails, right? Again, same interesting content that's pertinent to what my audience wants to see. Those do really well. We have over 50 to 60% open rate on almost all the emails we send out.
Wow. Wow.
We're emailing our database like sometimes 4 to 5 times a week, right? So we're constantly like top of mind. Social media, we focus specifically, like I specifically focus on Instagram and LinkedIn. That doesn't mean there's not other great platforms out there. I know a lot of people are having success on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and all these things, right? There's always something. I just, I try to stretch our content and constantly communicate. I can't tell you how much my community, every time I'm out there, knows exactly what I'm doing, knows exactly what's on my mind because they're seeing what I'm talking about in short 2 to 3 minute videos regarding housing and mortgage, or as I'm sharing like thought leadership stuff, or even just into my personal life. Like it's amazing how like you're maintaining a relationship that way if people know what you're up to, right? And then and you're top of mind. And then we lean really really heavy on events. I'm out virtually every single day with my partners. I generally am in front of an audience of at least 100 realtors every single week
Wow.
over the course of a week. Whereas like sometimes over the course of a day where we're doing like masterminds, we're doing market updates, we're doing education on things pertaining to our partners that we believe they should know to help them do more business and help them be better at their business. Um, we do huge events like just in January of this coming year, having one of our events to kick off the year where we'll have almost 1,000 realtor partners at our event to kick the year off. We did that last year as well. And we do small little tiny events. We do the fun stuff like the entertaining, like we're out at games and like just getting to know people as friends as opposed to just business partners.
Yep.
But like it's intense. Like we're out every single day. Like I don't mail in any day. Like no, like over the course of my 20 years that I've been in this business, like I can't tell you that I came to the office and didn't work my butt off from the minute I came in to the minute I leave. It's like I'm scheduled like from but generally about like 8:30. Like I've got a schedule and I maintain that till about 5 or 5:30. And it's intense, but that's how I have success, right? It's like I'm doing things that other people are unwilling to do. I'm willing to get uncomfortable. I'm willing, and I'm trying to constantly get better. And it works. Like it's sounds kind of simple and boring maybe to some, but I just work really hard and I work really efficiently.
I love it that it sounds a little bit boring and a little bit simple because actually it is. Every top producer that I have interviewed, I had a young guy on here a couple months back who closed 68 loans last month, and everything he said it's really not hard. It's not rocket science. Had Kara Whitman on last year. She's a constant Scotsman's Guide top 40 producer year after year after year after year, does 7, 8, 900 units a year. Same thing. Just it's about relationship. It's about consistency. It's about just being out there and working it constantly is the key. So I love that you're sharing that with the audience. Let me go back to something you said earlier. You'd made a statement that you've got 3 and 5 year goals, and those are great. However, what matters to you is the daily, weekly. What am I doing today? What am I doing this week? And I managed to very specific metrics. Talk about what those metrics are and what it is you focus on daily that really moves the needle in a big way. You've already mentioned events. We know that's one of those things, but tell me what else?
Yeah. So, I mean, on a daily basis, look, I'm focused on, I'm doing some form of presenting or meeting with partners, like literally like non-negotiable. I'm doing something like that daily. Right. And I'm also focused on content. Like, for example, like today, first thing I did, I posted 3-minute video on Instagram. That doesn't just happen, right? Like you don't just like, oh, I'm going to do one video. Like, you think about what you're going to write, you write it out, you
Yep.
practice it, you do it, right? That takes time. I'm on here with you today, right? Like,
Yep.
to me, this is something that like is a part of my plan. Like I like doing podcasts. I reached out to somebody to get me on a podcast that's kind of a little bit different outside of my comfort zone. That's got a huge audience outside of mortgage, but more consumer facing, so doing stuff like that. You know, I'm obviously talking to consumers still. Like a lot of people have this theory in their brain that like, you must do so much business. There's no way you can talk to people. Well, I talk to realtors and clients all day long, right? Like I find time to
Yep.
do that. One, it keeps me very, very sharp, and two, it's like my commitment I make to my partners and my clients. Like, it's that's important. But what I'm managing, we manage the amount of content we produce on a weekly basis, like how many videos I'm going to post, how many emails we're going to send. Then we come up with the content ideas for those. That takes time, right? A lot of people don't realize that like those things don't just fall out of the sky, right? We monitor who we're meeting with and why we're meeting with them, right? Like we're constantly trying to maintain our existing partners and make sure we're doing a good job for them. So there's relationship management, right? And then there's also new business development, right? Like who's our new target market? We're monitoring the amount of holding each other accountable to the amount of uh, those type of events we're doing, the amount of leads that come in on a weekly basis, right? So like we measure how many leads we need to bring in on a weekly basis to be able to hit our lock goals, to be able to hit our funding goals, right? We break it down weekly because if they go off track on a week, we identify what caused that to happen, right?
Love
Because like what if you don't manage it on a weekly basis, next thing you know, months come by
it.
and
Yep.
you're like you have no idea that you're even off track or why you're so far off track, and
Yep.
it's something's already broken at that point. Whereas like if you measure things on a weekly basis, things don't really break, right? Because like the minute they start to go off track, you get them right
Yep.
on track. You
Yep.
know what you need to do more of. We monitor our lock volume, our lock leads, apps, locks, fundings. We monitor our percentage of our commitments met to like mortgage commitments. Like why that's important is like we try to be at like 95%. The reason we're not at 100 is because like it's an imperfect business. Things come up,
Right.
and a lot of times those things generally are not like our doing. They're stuff that comes up on a deal that we have to ask for an extension to fix. But we aim for 95%. Now, if that number dips to like 80 or 70, that generally means we have an operational problem. If we have an operational problem, we're going to have a relationship problem, right? So we try to. That's why we're monitoring this stuff on a weekly basis, because if we're not doing our job, then people are going to start getting upset, and we're not going to be able to go out and market and talk the talk and say like, hey, if you work with us, like it's a guaranteed done deal. We need to be able to make sure the numbers actually show that we're doing that stuff. We're monitoring our net promoter score. We survey every single one of our clients. We want to know what they're saying about us in every single deal. We have certain metrics that we need to hit. We're monitoring our clear to close times, like from application to clear to close. We have very, very high standards. So, we have to make sure that we're efficient. And if we're off track, then we fix it. Monitoring our online reviews because your brand presence online is great. The video blast, the email blast, the social posts, like every single week, my team's getting together and going through the numbers every single Wednesday at 10 a.m. for the last 7 years. We literally like, and everybody's accountable to some of those numbers. We talk about where we're at,
Yep.
and then if we're off track, we put it on a to-do list. We discuss why we didn't hit our goals, and then what we need to do to get back on track. And all those weekly numbers, match up to exactly where we want to get to over the course of a year. Like we set out a goal this year. We wanted to do over $900 million, and we backed into all those metrics at the beginning of the year. If I want to do 900 million, here's how many leads, locks, fundings we need to get, and guess what? We're going to do over $900 million this year.
I love it.
So it's not an accident.
I absolutely love what you just shared. This is so powerful. As a trainer for 30 plus years, I've preached this forever. You cannot be successful if you don't even know what it is you're trying to be successful in. You
Yeah,
have to establish what your metrics are. You have to establish what your disciplines are going to be to achieve those metrics. And then you got to constantly make on course corrections all the time. And you don't make
totally.
them at the end of the month. That's too late. The party's over by that point. You got to make them every day. In some cases, every hour, you got to look at things, but definitely every week. You got to be adjusting constantly to make sure you get there to do that. I love that you talked about that.
I
So,
just find that like I find that I get an email every single day or some social media message, be like, "Hey, I'm a loan officer. I haven't, I'm not hitting my numbers, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong." And then, like, and over the course of time, I don't respond to every single one of them because I'm trying to run a business too. But I have a lot of those conversations, um, and like, it's amazing to me that, like, people don't know where they're trying to go to,
Right,
right? So it's like,
right,
it's like getting in your car and trying to find a location, but have no idea how to get there, right?
right,
Like, it's like you got to do your research, you got to do your homework, and then you got to hold yourself accountable to those numbers. Like, so many people will be like, "Well, I want to do $30 million," and they put the work in for 2 weeks, and they don't get their desired result, and then they stop, and then at the end of the year, they're like, "Well, I didn't hit my goals. I don't know what I'm doing wrong." Well, it's like, you got to know the goals, you got to set the metrics, you got to hold yourself accountable to them, and then you got to do it over a consistent amount of period of
yep,
time. And then magically stuff happens.
yep,
Like, it's amazing.
it does.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Clearly, you are a highly motivated, highly driven individual. How do you stay? Because I get this question all the time, but I'd love to hear your answer on this. How do you stay motivated every day? How do you stay with that just fire in the belly, gonna get her done? We're not giving up. We're moving forward no matter what's happening. How do you maintain that?
Yeah, it's just who I am, right? Like, so there's a lot of things. It's not just who I am, right? So part of it is ingrained in
That's
me,
part
but
of it,
there's a
of
part
course.
of it that keeps
Yeah,
you. So like, I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Like, seriously, like, I reflect all the time as to how grateful I am that, like, I found this business, that, like, I get to do something that's really cool and fun. But I also, like, financially it's been amazing, right? Like, life altering, right? That, there's so many other paths I could have gone down, that, like, but I ended up here, right? I'm very grateful. My perspective is like, I also come from a family where, my parents immigrated to this country in the late '70s, right? And they really came here and made an amazing life for themselves and for us, right? And I always kind of look at it like, if they could do it with, like, the odds stacked against them, starting from zero in a new country, like, I've got, I've got a way bigger opportunity in terms of, like, they had it really hard. Like, for me, I should be able to take advantage of, like, all these opportunities that I've been given.
yeah,
I've got three little beautiful little girls that count on me, and a wife that supports me. That, like, so, like, I feel like I owe it to them. I've got a team that, like, if I start coasting, they start coasting, and the whole thing falls apart, right? So, like, I'm accountable to a bunch of different people. Um, I love to win, right? Like, I'm competitive. So, like, to me, it's like I can find ways to get myself uh, fired up, whether it's like a perceived slight or a something to go after.
yep,
I kind of, and then, I put in the work. Like, I literally am constantly like, I love being around successful people. I love being mentored and coached by successful people, whether it's in person, right? Or whether it's like, just like, listening to a podcast, right? Like, there's a lot of people out there that I've never met that I'm inspired by, that, because I'm able to listen to their content or read. So I'm constantly like, this morning, like, I start my day every day at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? Meditate, take a little moment of gratitude. You do that consistently enough, that really helps, right? Go to the gym. Before I went to the gym, I read like 15 pages of a book. 15 pages is not a lot, but it was enough to, like, really kind of, like, I was a little run down yesterday when I got home. I read that. I was like a totally different person today than I was yesterday, because, like, I
yep,
just happened to read the right thing at the right time, and it kept me going. So, but I do a lot of reading, a lot of listening to positive content. It's amazing, like, how if you fuel your brain with positive content, with positive people, with people that, like, push you to be better in a way where, like, it's inspiring, motivating, aspirational. Um, you can just keep going. I try to eliminate also negative people from my life, frankly. Like, yeah, if it sounds
very
harsh,
wise.
like it is, like, I'm okay
No,
with that. Like,
very wise.
um, and it's like, but it's, so yeah, you have to put the work in. Otherwise, you would get burned out, or you would get uninspired. But there's always something, the next thing to accomplish. And I find that to be fulfilling. I know a lot of really successful people that, like, stop working for a little bit because, like, and then they get bored, and it's like they're uninspired, and they go right back at it, and they're, like, happy again. So I'm motivated. I think you could tell, like, even just talking about it, like, it's authentic.
Yeah.
But that's how I keep myself going.
I love it. And I got to point out the fact you mentioned earlier. I love this. You're doing $1 billion in business, and you said my day starts 8 or 8:30, gets done at 5 or 5:30. It's like, okay, that's not ridiculous hours, but you're
No.
working when you're there. and
Yeah.
you're absolutely 100% intent, that's exactly the formula for success. I love that you really focused in on that and help people understand that. Tell me for just a minute. So, talk about your team for a minute. What does the team look like? Like, how do you achieve the $1 billion in business? What is the physical makeup of the team that you need to be able to close that kind of business?
Yeah, and just like, to your point, like what you were saying is like, and I'm gonna answer that question, but like, I get an 8:30 and I leave 5:30, but the team is set up to where it's like it's always on, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody's on at 8 o'clock in the morning and somebody's working till 9:30 at night,
Good.
covering all the emails and the calls and texting on the weekends and all that stuff. And those are investments that I've made in myself and in my team, so that way, we can have the coverage without me having to do everything all the time, right? Like I went on a amazing vacation to Italy with my wife just last month.
Yeah, you
And
just
like,
got back when I saw you. That was yeah.
yeah, you're right. Actually, you're right. I literally flew to Dallas the day after, and and I was checked out. Like I had a really great vacation. I wasn't working. I wasn't on my laptop. I wasn't on my phone. My team did a really amazing job covering for me, and that's the type of freedom that I was looking for, and that's why I have what I have. But that's an investment in yourself. Like you have to coach, train, create systems and processes, find the right people, put them in the right seats, make sure they get it, they want it, they have the ability to do it. Hold them accountable. Add value to them, right? All those things. So the team makeup, so my team's kind of broken up into, sales, operations, marketing, and business development. Like those would be like, and there's an administrative component of it as well too, in terms of
Sure.
supporting all those things. But like in the big scheme of things, like those are the four kind of quote unquote departments that we have, right? And so, to support me, I've got, so the team is at this point, it's like as we've grown back to doing like almost back to about $1 billion again. We're probably up to about 30 people again, or pretty
Okay.
close to it. At the height of 2021, when we did $2.2 billion, which is like that's it's just there's a lot of mortgage companies that want to do that kind of business. We had about 60 some odd people on the team, so we've scaled back quite a bit. We've implemented a lot of technology and efficiencies and all that kind of stuff that also don't require us to scale that much bigger going forward. However, I've got uh, inside sales support, where like I've got 5 loan officers on the team that help with the influx of leads that come in.
Okay.
I've got
Loan
about five
officers,
sales.
LOAs.
So both. I got
Okay.
LOAs and loan officers, right, that work on the team that effectively like will onboard all the clients that come in, right? That like if, for example, if I'm on here right now and somebody wants to talk, you know, um, I can't talk to two people, like I can't talk to you and
Good.
talk to a client, so they'll get on the phone with either a loan officer assistant or like a junior loan officer, right? So like somebody that can effectively take the loan from start to finish without me even having to be on the phone. And what's great about that is, you know, everybody, we're in the human business, right? We're in the relationship business. And like even though I think I can hang with everybody and talk to everybody, like there's sometimes where I'm just not going to be a good fit for somebody or the type of loan or whatever. Whereas like I do believe that we've got a bunch of different personalities where, with all the different types of partners that we work with and different types of people that come into communication, I have somebody for everybody. Right. So in fact, check this out. I was at a conference a few years ago and I saw this interesting stat from National Association of Realtors that by 2040, 72% of all first time home buyers are going to be Latino, right? Well, I don't speak Spanish. And so I went out and hired this great guy on our team. And now we're fully Spanish speaking, right? So, like, I've got a loan officer on my team that's fluent in Spanish. We do our online application in Spanish. We do loan disclosures in Spanish, loan processor in Spanish. And now the Shant Banosian team can literally help a client that is the most comfortable speaking in Spanish, right? Anywhere in the country, right? So, like little things like that we're always just kind of forward thinking. And if that works, by the way, which I know it will, like we'll expand that to whatever else, however other markets we can expand into. Um, but so I've got LOAs, junior loan officers. I've got a business development team that's out there putting on events, helping me, be at these events. Relationship management. I've got a marketing team behind the scenes that's helping me curate all this content. and I've got a world-class operation team, loan processors, underwriters, and closing support. So
Great.
all within kind of our brand. But if you look at it, think about the companies. There's a lot of companies out there that will do $1 billion this year that have way more than 30 people, right? So it's we're pretty efficient with the way we run, and everybody works really hard, and everybody works really smart.
Love it. So I want to hear you answer this question, if you would. I watched one of your videos on your website or on
Okay.
social media, and you dealt with the rate question. I've been the rate doesn't matter guy for 30 years, running over the country saying rate don't matter, guys. And I loved what you did. You did a video where you said, you know what? Everybody says what's your rate, but really the question when I get it isn't what's your rate, it's or what's my rate, it's what's your rate back to the
Yeah.
borrower. Can you run through an example of how you deal with all of these rate questions and how little it really matters at the end of the day what the rate is, that it's really not about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really not. Like, now, I mean, I used to be when I was younger in my career, I used to get so, I would almost take it personal, right? Like, and it's just, part of it is maturity, right?
Yeah,
And I've done, a lot more business, and I've realized that, like, unfortunately, like, clients don't really know what to ask, right?
right.
Like they don't. Most people, very few people, unless they've had a bad experience, come in and say, "Hey, I want the absolute best advice and most quality service level that I can get." Like, that never happens, right? Like, generally speaking, people are programmed for whatever reason to start off every single conversation with us with, "Hey, I want to get pre-approved. What's your rate? Hey, whatever. Like, what's your rate? I'm shopping around. What's your rate?" So, and so I realized pretty early on that, like, most people, just like, by the way, I don't know much about somebody else's business, right? Like, when I talk to almost anybody else, like, I've learned all the time that, like, I have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. So now I've realized that, like, most people have no idea how our business works, right? They have no idea all the things that we do behind the scenes, to help you get into your home or help you finance your transaction however you wish, right? Um, but they don't know about all the stuff, how we have multiple different programs, how there's a gazillion different loan product options, how the loan level price adjustments work, why those things matter, right? They have no idea. So, like, what I've tried to do is educate them on, like, literally, like, I could have 5 different people call me trying to buy the same exact house, and they'd all end up with different loan products and different rates and different
Right,
payments, right?
right.
They don't know that. So I find that, like, so I've always found that if you proactively set a great foundation up front, it's way better to handle objections proactively than reactively. If you've done it reactively, it's because you haven't done a good job of explaining everything that goes on in the process up front.
That's good.
And so I also find that eliminates, like, an adversarial relationship if you educate. I have always believed if you educate and you inform, you attract and you motivate. And that's kind of how I try to like, deal with my clients. Now, sometimes it doesn't work. But I found that, like, when clients are so dead set on rate and I can explain to them up front, like, everything that goes into it and how my process works and how I stick to my process in order to get them the best possible outcome, which is the best product, the best rate, the most savings, the most amount of information, the most amount of options, then they realize that, like, hey, this guy is a professional,
That's
right?
right.
This guy's a pro's pro that's going to really be different than everybody else. And or you can be commoditized, right? And, like, if you let the customer dictate the pace of the conversation or even the direction of the conversation, one, they're going to miss out on so much because, like, you don't get a chance to do what you're a professional at.
Right.
But they don't know. So, like, you have to show them.
Right. Yeah, they don't know what questions to ask. They don't know the details of a mortgage loan or the process or the different programs or products or qualifications issues or guidelines. They have no idea of any of that. That's
No.
what we as mortgage professionals are here to provide them with. That's why we have a job.
Yeah,
Is
and you should have a call structure, right? Like, everybody should have a call structure that, like, you drive the bus in the way that call structure goes, and you should have intention as to why you're taking it there, as to what you're hoping the client takes out of it. Because if you do a great job, then they remember you forever,
Yep.
right? If you let them dictate it, you are just a transaction. It's a race to the bottom, and like ultimately you're unmemorable. Whereas like at the beginning of this call, we started talking about relationships. Like if you do a great job and really show your value, differentiate yourself from everybody else, how's that going to go? All right, next, say they call around, say they got three names or whatever, right? You do your thing and you really separate yourself apart. You educate, you inform, you differentiate. Now they get on the phone with the next guy and they say, hey, what's your rate? And the guy answers it. They write it down. They're like, okay, cool, I'm good. And then they move on to the next conversation. You
Right.
talk to them for 45 minutes. They talk to them for 1 minute. Who do you think is going to win in the long run? The guy that did a really, really great job.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that so much. All right. So let me ask you this last question, and then I want to close with what I ask all of my guests as the final question. But if you were to give your number one bit of advice to anybody watching this that's in this business, trying to originate loan, trying to be successful, trying to win, what would be, from your perspective, the thing that this is what you absolutely have to do if you want to win? What would that advice be from you?
Yeah. I mean, you have to, like I'm trying to think early on in my career, like, one, you have to be really committed to this being your craft, right? Like, um, you have to really spend a lot of time on becoming an expert at everything it relates to as in mortgage. Like,
Yeah.
you have to know your products inside and out. You have to know what your options are. You have to like really study. Like, if you're going to go be an electrician or a plumber or whatever it is, right? Or any other, like, an attorney, like you can't just fake it, right? Like you have to study
Yep.
and you have to be able to answer questions, and you have to be a master at your craft. And so many people don't really make the investment in time in terms of learning about mortgage, in terms of learning about housing. Like I spend so much time every single day learning about new product offerings, changes in the existing product offerings, educating myself in terms of what's going on in housing, what's going on with my partners. And it doesn't take a lot of time, but maybe over the course of the day, it's a half hour or an hour where I'm constantly just learning new information, right? Because
Yep.
then my level of conversation with people is totally different, right? And the next thing you know, you're attracting different types of people. You're standing out in the crowd. But so many people just don't go all in on this being like your profession. You're not just a salesperson selling a product. You are a professional mortgage loan officer. You're a professional at the housing market. Like you're really just different than everybody else. So I would say treat it like it's your business, and that your life depends on it, right? And your livelihood depends on it.
I love it. I've talked so many times over the years about the power of ROI, return on investment,
Yeah,
that everybody looks at, well, I'm going to spend this time learning this stuff. Well, wait,
yeah,
you're investing time to learn things that will give you a massive return down the road because you're more professional, you're more knowledgeable, you can solve things quicker. You gain all of that time back in spades because you invested in the first place. I love how you articulated that in your response to that question.
yeah. And then I'll just wrap it up with like to part two, like the other part. You just got to be willing to work. Like you really got to like you just got to work
I
like
don't
all
want
day, every day.
to.
That's
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
that's right.
yeah,
I love it. All right. Um, every guest that I bring on, the closing question I ask them is this: we only become successful, I believe, because we have people who help us get there in our career, mentors.
yeah.
I believe one of the most important things that people must find in their life is great mentors to help them. Share with the audience, Shant. I know that you've had mentors in your life. It might have been a parent.
Yeah.
You talked about how your mom and dad were very successful. I love that story. It might be a coach or a teacher. It might be somebody in the mortgage industry. If you were to look back and you were to see who the greatest mentor in your life was, what did that mean to your career? And how important do you think that is for people to have mentors in their life to be successful?
I mean, it's everything. In my personal life, it's been my father. Right, I've learned a lot from him
Awesome.
more than anybody. But I will tell you that I've had a lot of great business mentors. It's everything. If who you surround yourself with like really matters, and you should surround yourself with people that one you're attracted to there's that energy that is like they have something that you want. Also, that makes you a little uncomfortable.
Yep.
I found some of my mentors. I'm like, wow, that person like they're just think different. They push harder. They're just so. I'm always looking for that. I'm always looking to up level the type of people that I surround myself with because you know I don't I know I don't have it all figured out, right? And
None
even
of
when
it.
I do have it figured out, there's always somebody that's like doing something's better.
Yep.
Doing so, I'm constantly like looking to be in the right rooms, looking to be around the right people. So, and I also feel like what's amazing is that sometimes those people are the easiest to connect with. Like the most successful people I know are the easiest people to reach out to,
Yep.
and are so willing to give you advice and give you their time.
That's so
Uh,
true.
whereas like we create these narratives that it's impossible to connect to them or they'll never respond to me or whatever, and it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
They're willing to share.
I love it. Well, Sean, this has been just really a delight to hang out with you. And I mean, you have built an incredible business. You're
Thank you.
just a really great, great guy. And I want to say on behalf of the industry, we are grateful for you. You set a really high standard for people to run after. And I just think it's really cool what you've done in your career. Congratulations on being just uber, uber successful. If there's anything I can ever do to help in your career, you just pick up the phone and call. You've got my cell phone, so call it. I'd be glad to help. But
Thank you.
it's been awesome to hang out with you. Thanks so much for spending time today and for hanging out with us.
Yeah, same goes. I mean, you're a legend in this business, and you've helped thousands upon thousands of people continue to raise their standards, learn, and just be better and help serve others. So, thank you for everything you've done as well.
Oh, that's very kind. I appreciate that. All right, guys, that wraps up another Batting a Thousand where we hang out with the heavy hitters, and we were with a massive heavy hitter today. So glad to have Shant with us today. So appreciative for his wisdom and all the golden nuggets. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys on the next session. God bless. Have a great day, everybody.